It's day 2 of the federal sex trafficking trial for hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Today, the prosecution's star witness, Diddy's ex, Cassie Ventura, took the stand. We'll have more on today's testimony in just a moment, but first, Court TV's Julie Grant fills us in on the federal case against Sean Diddy Combs and the background of his main accuser, Cassie Ventura.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs is charged with 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution.
We're going to fight this case with everything we have, as is he, and eventually he's going to be shown to be innocent.
A 17-page indictment alleges that Combs forced women to participate in what he called freak-offs, elaborate sexual encounters that he arranged, watched, and recorded.
The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant.
The racketeering conspiracy charge is for allegedly using employees of his business empire to control his alleged victims.
Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
The charges mainly relate to 3 victims.
I wanted, Cassie to everybody to meet Cassie. Y'all know that.
That's a 2009 clip from Combs' YouTube channel. The woman is Cassandra Ventura, known as Cassie. She's referred to as victim number 1. The indictment alleges from 2009 to 2018, Combs sex trafficked Ventura by forcing her to participate in freak-offs and transporting her along with sex workers for these freak-offs.
Think I wanna make that move now. Baby, tell me if you like it. Tell me if you like it now.
Ventura is a singer who was signed to Combs' label. They dated on and off for more than a decade and split in 2018. In 2023, she accused him of rape and abuse in a civil lawsuit. And the following year, the now infamous CNN exclusive video of Combs beating Cassie in 2016 was leaked.
When Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs.
Victims 2 and 3 have not been publicly identified. Combs allegedly sex trafficked victim 2 from 2021 to 2024. Combs is also accused of arson, kidnapping, and assaulting victims and witnesses of crimes, even once dangling someone off of a balcony.
He believes he's innocent. I believe he's innocent. And we're going to fight this case with all of our might until we don't have to fight anymore.
Well, that fight is now playing out in the courtroom in day 2 of the trial. The prosecutor's case has centered around their relationship and claims that Diddy physically and sexually abused Ventura for years. Now, no cameras are allowed in court, but we do have eyes and ears on the ground bringing us the latest. And of course, that's Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. She joins us now live outside that courthouse with a debrief.
Good evening to you, Michael. Court is over for the day here in New York City. Today, the majority of the day was spent with Cassie Ventura on the stand, the government's star witness, as she described in graphic detail the freak-offs that she took part in. She's talking about how they started with baby oil, then would proceed to other activities, then eventually intercourse. As Sean Combs sat in the corner and watched, she said she hated doing these freak-offs. Sean Combs in court today wearing the same outfit as he was wearing yesterday, interacting a great deal with his defense counsel a lot while Cassie was on the stand, jotting down notes and passing them to his attorneys. Inside the courtroom, members of his family. We do have some video of them leaving court today just after the proceedings ended. His daughters, sons, as well as his mother making their way outside the courtroom today. While Cassie was on the stand, she did testify that she needed to be on drugs for every single freak-off session to disassociate, not be present for these freak-offs. She did say on the stand, we do have some full screens we can put up for you of some of her testimony. She was testifying that the freak-offs were very choreographed, that they would first be proposed when they began dating, and that he was physically abusive to her. After the first time, she said, I was high, so there wasn't much feeling, mixture of dirty and confusion. She said, I was humiliated. She also talked about the different places that these freak-offs would take place, saying that they were produced by Combs and that she would contact dancers or stripping services, and then she would then show Combs images of potential male escorts for his approval, typically paying them between $1,500 and $6,000 per session. Now, the direct examination of Cassie will end up wrapping up tomorrow, and then defense counsel will begin its cross-examination. The defense counsel was asked how long they expect that cross-examination to last. They said it will definitely go until Thursday. That's the latest from here in New York City. Michael, we'll send it back to you.
All right, Kelly Craft, thank you so much for that report. As always, let's bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us to discuss domestic violence expert and former law enforcement officer Claudia King, and former prosecutor, criminal and civil defense attorney Randolph Rice is with us as well. Thank you both for joining me here on the program. Truly appreciate it. And Claudia, I'm going to start with you. One of the things that was stated in opening statements, and the defense has been pretty clear, they consider what happened here, or a lot of what happened here, consensual between adults. They took responsibility for the domestic violence, right? But they basically said when it came to Cassie Ventura, they said, look, she made a decision to stay, and she kept making that decision to stay until she decided to leave. Do you agree with that statement? Does that hold water with your knowledge of domestic violence and what goes on in those types of relationships?
It absolutely does not, because we know that victims almost always stay for a long period of time. The average time it takes for somebody to leave for good is 7 times. So they make 7 attempts at leaving and returning before they leave for good. So it's not a surprise that she stayed. She says she loved him, and we believe that. She probably did love him, and he had broken her down. So when an abuser does that, they literally take away everything from that victim, their self-esteem, their self-worth, often their financial abilities. He also had blackmail material against her. So it's not surprising to me at all that she did stay, and I don't think that plays well for the defense.
One of the complicating factors is money, right? Because another thing that the defense claimed is that they had a lot to gain by staying around and doing these things. In your mind, what, if any, role does that play in both of their situations?
I mean, I think we know Diddy has a lot of money, and definitely more than Cassie, so I could see them trying to say she stuck around for the money, but really, was it worth it? I mean, we've seen what he did to her. We've all seen that, so I think it's hard to say that she was willing to stay just for the money and take everything that he gave to her.
Yeah, it was ugly. What he did to her was truly ugly, and I think that's one of the big problems for the defense. Randolph Rice, I want to get you in on the conversation now. The thing about this case, when we talk about it being a racketeering case, and I agree 100% with the defense, they said, look, if these were domestic violence charges, we wouldn't even be here. He would have pled, he'd be in jail, he'd be doing it. They decided to go for racketeering. My question for you is, anybody with a large enterprise, whatever business it might be, they have people who are doing things for them, making calls, setting up meetings, et cetera, buying things for them. If, in fact, they do those things for these particular acts that they don't even know are necessarily illegal, they might think are consensual, does that amount to racketeering? Is that enough to say that this is a criminal enterprise? Rich people have enterprises, and they do things sometimes that are criminal.
Well, that's going to be a question for the jury, but obviously the U.S. Attorney's Office believed that they had enough evidence to charge and they have enough evidence to convict. And the question is going to become, did those people do these things, and did Sean Combs use that power to control them? The whole idea of this enterprise, did he have managers and other associates that were using their resources to control these individuals to ultimately have these sex acts and these freak-offs?
No co-conspirators in this trial. Randolph, does that surprise you?
It does a little bit, because the federal government does like to sort of get everybody wrapped up in one charge and try to go after them. But, again, they felt like this is the best way to present their case, and that's what they're doing now.
You know what's interesting, Claudia? If Cassie testified that he had her make the calls to set up everything. Now, you can think about it in one sense, saying, okay, he knew that, you know, if he made her do it, then maybe he wouldn't get in trouble for it. I don't think that was it. I think there was something else at play. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with you, and I think it was that power and control. It wasn't about him thinking 10 steps ahead that I won't be culpable or liable. I think it was him saying, I can control everything that this woman does, down to making her make the phone calls for these sex workers to come in and making her hand over the money that pays for her own humiliation.
Do you think juries are ready to hear this idea that she couldn't leave? You can believe it. I mean, it's more believable in certain cases than in others. And as I said, they're going to pound home this idea that this was about money. She kept, you know, she stuck around for her own reasons, not because of this supposed coercion. Are juries today, and there's been a shift in our thinking about domestic violence, are they ready to hear that in an instance like this?
I certainly hope so, and I think that they are. I think that we've seen a real shift in the public perception of domestic violence, and we've seen cases that have occurred where we've seen, you know, battered spouse syndrome successfully be defended and shown as a reasonable act. So I think juries are ready to hear it, and I think Cassie is doing a wonderful thing for women and men victims all over. Now that she's talking about it, she's a survivor. And all survivors and victims should be thankful that she's willing to do this for all of them.
Yeah, after Cassie came out, some 3,000 people came forward. Again, they haven't vetted them all, but 3,000 people felt the courage to follow her. So as you said, you know, that was a good thing there. All right.